I'm glad you two know my personality as well.
It's going to be a banter of the ages.
Yes, 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 yes. That's what it's all about. That's how I kind of run my projects, to be quite honest, Justin. Like I always set that tone. If we're not enjoying it, why are we doing it?
It depends on the audience, to be honest. I will give the moments of levity and then I'll give some charm depending if we're with
Yeah,
executives, but I think you know that nuance too.
definitely. Done that wrong as well in the past.
uh,
All right. Oh, there we go. I think it did it go.
we're live.
No, I don't see it. I haven't gotten my notification yet to get into the room.
I'm in, and so I've got attendees. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from around the world. If you would be so kind as the same spiel that we always give, drop in the chat what you're looking to hear from, what you're looking to learn about, and also where you're tuning in from, and also your LinkedIn profile so you can connect with other relevant members in the audience. Sounded a little Radiohead for me.
Well, they changed the whole live setup, so I'm still struggling to like get into the room. It has now so many different options. So I'm like, oh, let me watch it. There we go. There we go. I found the notification. So yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for bringing us in, allowing into your homes and your offices for an hour of your time today. As you know, time is precious, so we truly appreciate it. We've got people starting to join, I see, which is fantastic. And yeah, I think we are, now that I'm like almost all set up here, I think we're good to get going as we bring in more attendees. So I am so happy that I can introduce you all to Kyle Maiden. He is the CEO of Project. Did I pronounce that right?
Project, yeah, that's the one.
I'm the creator of the Human Project Delivery Framework. He's here to unpack the parts of project delivery that a lot of people avoid talking about. He brings us 15 years in the corporate world, 11 years in the project and program space. But really, he's just a earth guy that we're excited to talk about. And really, obviously, the title of this one is Project Management, what's not taught in textbooks. And that's everything we're going to be diving into. So, Kyle, thank you for joining us. And I would love if you could just kind of give any other brief introductions about yourself before we start diving in.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, thank you for having me on. And I can already see some names I recognize in the chat. So hello, everybody. It's nice to see you on this Friday. It's been another long week. So yeah, I set up a company called Project. And in short, I'm a contractor here in the UK and slowly building out to be a consultancy working with clients in the UK. On the side of that, I decided to write the Human Project Delivery Framework based on real life scars and past histories. Look, he's even got a copy. And also through conversations that I've had with people that have really influenced my career as well, and tried to just write down what I found was the real life job of a project manager, away from process, away from the stuff you take in the exams, the stuff that you actually do day to day with clients. And then on top of that, and I won't go into this too much, there's a lot of other stuff that I'm doing too, but I'll plug that at the end.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Let's get started. Kyle, just, the first thing that comes to mind is there's a lot that we don't know that is not in formal education of project management. Maybe we can kick things off and start to talk through what it is that's not taught.
Yeah. So like the example that we spoke about, and I think it's probably worthwhile mentioning as well at the beginning, and we talked about it before we went live, is the reasons why we started talking, right? Like the shared experiences that we've had from doing projects in the real world that you're just not prepared for when you do take an exam, when you do take a course. So I've been in IT projects for around 10, 11 years now. I came into it late in the game. I was, as Elizabeth, you said, I was working in the corporate space doing a very different job. and took the plunge and came into IT at 33. Yeah, feel old. And I started with Prince 2. That was where everybody was pointing. It's like, go and do Prince 2, do Prince 2 Foundation. And what I found was I do have quite a logical brain, and it made a lot of sense to me, the steps that you go through, and then built on it with practitioner. And then I get my first job as a junior PM working for a utilities company here in the UK. And it was like the script was thrown out of the window, because there's one of the things they don't tell you about. And when you talk to somebody who's really lived it, they'll talk about the word tailoring, that you need to tailor the approach, right? Depending on where you are, depending on the environment you're working on, depending on the tech stack that you're working on.
Exactly.
So
yes,
that was a big thing for me. It was I've been taught to do it this way. And I'm quite, like I said, I'm very process driven. I'm like, they're not doing it how I'm taught to do it. Oh no. And then you get into the whole softer stuff, the human stuff, right? Like the interactions between people and dealing with politics, which is fun. And they don't teach that. They don't teach that bit. How do you give the director some bad news for the project that he wanted 2 weeks ago, and you're about to sit down and go, it's not gonna.
You certainly don't do it on a call. You do it in a sidebar conversation. You don't blindside anyone.
Wait, you mean literally in a big email, which I've actually done in the past if we're not making this.
And then jump under the desk.
I had to because all of leadership was afraid to. And I was like, I am not going to be held accountable for launching this like $100 million project when I'm telling you keep adding scope and not changing the timeline. I'm just point blank calling this out and calling it good. But you'll walk us through a better way to do that.
I will do my best. I will walk you through how I do it. And often it's just dealing with people. It's literally trying to understand people. And look, I'm not here to plug the book, but that is the core of what I've tried to do, which is the first part is to try and understand that delivery should be boring. What do you do upstream to make delivery boring? And the second piece is, how do you deal with people, right? How do you read a room? How do you sit in front of a stakeholder and figure out, is this guy for what I'm doing or is he against? What agendas are at play here that I don't know about? Reading body language, for example, as well. And understanding, like, are they engaged with what they're saying? Are they going to really give you the support that you need? And everything else that kind of goes along with that, like, what sentiment are you getting? But there's the lower level stuff too. It's like when you're dealing with a team, like the confidence levels of the team of what they're being asked to do as well. And they will tell the higher ups everything's fine, and you know it's not fine.
Yeah.
But how do you float that conversation up? And we'll get into specifics because
I'm going to challenge you because we're still talking at this level. Let's talk a little bit more.
Let's do it.
You know us well enough to know. So the first thing that you mentioned is team dynamics. It's not just the project itself. You have the team and how they coordinate together, their career management at the individual level. Everyone is trying to get a bonus. They're trying to get promoted. They're trying to look good. No one wants to be shamed. So that's the first level. The second level is departmental agendas that they're fighting for scarcity of resources, visibility at the senior leadership, and also to progress their roadmaps. The third element is going to be that external piece. So you have vendors over here that are engaging with different departments and the team level, and they're trying to continue to either build their business or also to embed themselves into the organization. I'll pause there. You can continue the list because I know there are more.
I'm actually thinking like I wrote this down before we jumped on the call. Like we talk about the project environment as project managers as well. Like we're just fixated on the project and the delivery of the project. There's an external factor within the organization as well. Who's looking after that when the project closes down? What does BAU look like? How are you taking them on the journey?
Business as usual.
How are you going to get it accepted into service? Is this going to be something that's managed? Do they know about it? Or are you just chucking it over the fence? All these conversations that, again, you're not trained for, you kind of have to find it out. And I think this is the kind of the core of what I believe and what I really hold as valuable is you learn this stuff by doing it wrong. because often a lot of people they're not going to tell you this stuff. You've got to fail to get better. I've got a quote that I might share towards the end because I love it, and I shared it with somebody who's in the chat earlier. I had her listening to it, and she's like, "Oh, that's really cool." But you do, and you know the thing is, as humans, we don't talk about stuff.
Yeah,
we don't want to talk about it.
So let me ask you this, because you brought us in this direction where, like, you learn the most when you're failing. So let's dive into why projects fail and what you do when that happens, what you learn from it, what makes someone a good PM when they manage those failures. So starting with, why do projects fail? How do you address that?
I think the one that's always kind of top of my mind is the reason why a project fails is there's been decisions made upstream that have been done in good faith, but is not the course that would actually lead to a successful delivery. My mind always goes to a solution that might have been picked. And I've got some examples that we've actually spoke about in the past where we've had project failure. And I'll get to one of those in a sec, and I'll talk about actually the real world of what it was like too, that again, you're not prepared for. But if solutions aren't correct on that left-hand side, by the time it's hitting the team, you're already fighting an uphill battle. And often it's having those awkward conversations. And this is at the crux of this, right? You've got to sit down with people and probably tell them news they don't want to hear. And it's how do you package that in a way, and I can give some strategies of what I use. How do you package that in a way where it's going to move forward positively, in a way that we're going to look towards an end delivery date, and there's going to be something that comes out the back of it. Do you want me to jump into an example?
Yeah, I'd love an example of like projects have failed, exactly what you've done, because it's going to help our audience. And you guys can ask questions, by the way. It's going to help our audience to literally walk through a real world example of how you dealt with that, what you said to the executive stakeholder by being like, yeah, this isn't going to work in a politically correct way. So I'd love to have you dig into that.
I'll give you the example, and I'll kind of give you the core lesson at the end. And look, I don't buy watches, so if you do want to ask me a question, just please do. I'm not gonna mention any company names or any specific people. I was working for a company in fintech a couple of years ago. I was a senior delivery lead. How I've always kind of approached my career was to go after the stuff that nobody else wanted to do. Often, again, if you think about the human factor of things like this, is people often go for things that are easy, especially when I would say you're more permanent minded, because no one wants to take something on that's absolutely gnarly, right? I used to go in the other direction. I used to go for the stuff that people didn't want. And this specific project was a SQL upgrade against all of the products that this company had. I think there was about 14 or 15. And we were updating all the SQL databases, building brand new SQL platforms of the project. The project was end of life. So it was going to end of life. There was a decision that needed to be made to extend warranty in case anything went down, because obviously we'd be exposed from a critical data perspective. And we'd worked tirelessly on this thing. It was brutal. Often it was Sunday nights up until 3 o'clock in the morning, laid on the floor underneath your desk with your headset on, trying to make sense of what people are saying as the testing's going through, wondering why did I choose this as a career. And we're in UAT, and it's broken. It's broken because performance is shot. The testing. So again, in IT, obviously seconds are a lifetime, and the performance had dropped out by about 350%. It was catastrophic. It would grind the company to a halt. And the aim at that point was to go, well, we know we can't go live.
Yeah.
And the kicker was, we're going to be out of support in 2 weeks. We don't have enough time to rectify this, retest, and then push it out in 2 weeks. So you're at a cliff edge. Now, I'm going to quote some people that have kind of taught me a lot over the years. And I've made this mistake. I've done this where you have a problem and you go running and escalate to a manager and you go, we've got this problem. I don't know what to do. And they go, that's your job. Go figure it out. Because a lot of people don't realize is, as a project manager, the key skill I always look in project managers when I'm recruiting, I think of solving problems. because that's a core skill. He used to say to me, if you're coming to me with a problem without a solution, or at least a recommendation, you're whining. Go away, come back. And it was one of the biggest moments where I go, oh, I'm going to get it. I get what the ask is on me. So in this particular circumstance, we needed to understand the facts. So this is from another guy who always used to say, always deal in facts, never deal in assumptions. Get the facts because they are or emotion. Yeah. Because that's your armor. When you're going into those conversations, that's what protects you as a PM. It's like everybody always looks at your risk log. Oh, have you wrote it in the risk log? Well, yeah, but you still have to have actions behind it. When you're dealing with these facts around a situation like this, it protects you. The options we had, oh God, it was like Sophie's Choice. It was like, you can run unsupported for probably an undetermined amount of time. We can take a rough guess and say around 2 months. And if it breaks, we are broken.
Yeah.
Or you pay £1 million and extend the support for 12 months. That's not an easy decision. And I'm not going to sit here and say that this situation would be the same in every other organization, because I was lucky. Again, there's an element of luck here too. The line manager, the program director, is one of the best people I've ever met. I met him the other week and told him, like, I still talk about this story because of the respect I've got for him. Because he just calmly sat there, he listened to it, he asked a few questions, he asked about confidence levels, again, something no framework talks about, getting confidence levels. And he said, let's run unsupported. Let's run unsupported, and let's keep checking in every day and see how the testing is going. Because if that time horizon pushes out, we'll probably need to pull the trigger. But you're empowered to go and try and solve that problem. We walked away. I think we took about a month and a half. We got it in. No problems. So it was a project failure, but because of that support and because of kind of implementing these things of informing stakeholders really about what the issue is and how they can make a decision, it just makes it a little bit easier on you. And it shows that you're in control.
Yeah, and so you brought a few things up, right? One, you're like, we're bringing in data. We're not bringing in assumptions or emotions. That's one of the key things when it comes to politics, is you always come back to the facts, right? You also had to make a decision between, are we going to spend money? Are we going to potentially hurt customer experience, which is potential revenue loss? There's a lot of options there. So you're approaching with trade-offs, and here's what we can do for the business. You're aligning it to what that's going to happen for the project and the business, and you're speaking in facts. So that way, politically, you are someone protected. I know we want to dig more into that, but I think Justin had a question for you.
Hit me.
Oh, no. So it wasn't a question. I think Elizabeth and you were both hitting on the concept that there are different approaches that you have to take in a situation. However, you still need to quantify the impact, the magnitude, and tie it towards the business survival mechanisms: revenue, cost, risk, liability, and strategic positioning. All the things that we harp about all the time. And that's why we get along so well, is that it's not just the project delivery concept. The project is a mechanism for the business. So if that mechanism isn't sustainable, in other words, the go live isn't going to be sustainable and there's no support, then we have an operational failure that's going to happen. And so you have to think about the lens broader than the project, but the operations ability to make or save money.
Right. Yes. Which you did. You brought the facts and you tied it to the business. So that's why he was able to make a decision. And yeah, it was risky, but
let's expand on that for a second and give people some more lenses to look through about what kinds of things should you look to quantify for this situation. Revenue impact is a simple one that we've talked about, but let's kind of deep dive into it a little bit further. And then I think Raghu has inundated us with about 4 questions that we can tackle as well.
Oh wow. Okay. So I think you're right. I think, but to answer your question, I think it's understanding the problem. And I think by deep diving on the problem to understand actually what is it? It's like risk management, risk mitigation, understanding the areas. Yeah, it could be revenue. It really could. It could be that your single point of failure in your team, the person with all the knowledge, the oracle that everybody uses for everything, he's took another job. He's leaving. Not only leaving, he's left. Your project's going to grind to a halt. Okay, well, or he's threatening to leave. Like that problem, that's more of a, it's a kind of a BAU problem, but it's your problem. Like, we're going to need to get some extra resource in. Do we have anybody else within the organization that could come into draft? If he's got on a notice period, it could be you want to start thinking about things like buddying up on knowledge. I mean, that happens quite a lot. You see teams under pressure because you've got that one person that seems to know everything, and the pressure builds to the point where that person might not be around. Scope creep. I mean, the dirty words.
Scope creep I don't think is bad by nature, but I don't want to deviate from that question for a second.
I'll stand down.
We talked about, the go live risk that you had. One of the things you talked about was investing in 1.5 million in order to extend that the support situation, or just live without support for that time period. Things that you should consider are just the upfront costs of infrastructure or any kind of penalties that may be realized, as well as labor and overhead that's incurred in the project. But these things aren't something that's top of mind to a project manager naturally.
No.
It's not taught to a project manager either, but this is how you facilitate decisions with the business. It's not, hey, the project is going to be delayed. It's going to cost you another $20,000 for the next 2 weeks to fix this. Yeah. Or if we are delayed, it's going to affect your revenue by 50% for this quarter. Something like that gets the attention of all of the people. And now you're talking in a business acumen lens. Now you're trying to bridge the understanding with your audience, because your audience that you're talking to, executives, and that's the organizational political acumen. You're talking to a different audience, so turn your language to your audience. Small relevance here, but yeah. Sorry, Elizabeth or Kyle, you can go from there. I just wanted to emphasize that.
I've actually, and I've actually got a little tip for new PMs that I implemented early on, and I don't want to take us on another rabbit hole, because I do that a lot when me, you, and you two are talking. I do it all the time, and you might want to dig into this as well. But obviously, coming to things like this, it I think really helps, because you're hearing it from the people that have done it, so that when you are in that situation. But that leads on to another thing, because if I was a new PM coming into this game right now, I'd be seeking out a mentor, someone senior who's doing the job, and you have those. What's the most difficult thing that you've ever done within projects? Like, what did you learn? How did you overcome it? Because if you're something similar, you can just do it. I just didn't want to forget that.
I think for me, the most difficult things that I've overcome, and I don't really have specific examples, Dave, right now, but the most difficult things for me to overcome are office politics, straight up, right? Like, that is one of the hardest things, because again, we talked about, you are navigating agendas, you're navigating emotions, and you need to stick to logic, stick to data points, know what everyone's agendas are, so you could potentially play to them, but align it back to the overall kind of business goals. But we have a question in the chat right now from Raghu that says, and I don't know that we can define this specifically, because it says, which priorities are political rather than business driven? This is kind of hard, because I think everything's kind of political, but I know Justin has an answer on this, I'm sure.
I was surprised. This isn't his first question, but you went to his last one.
Well,
I'm going to think about this as well.
But Justin might have an answer too, right? So it doesn't have to be just from you. I know he's got a lot of thoughts on this. I don't think you can prioritize political versus business driven. I think they're
interrelated. Yes.
I think so.
And I treat it like a game, and I don't mean in the sense that it's lighthearted. I mean, it is, honestly, you have to build strategies and a coalition around people in the organization. If a project manager doesn't have relationships, and I don't mean in the sense of like learning people's family names and all of that, but actual business relationships where they trust each other, then you have a problem. A project manager is only as good as the information that they get on a timely basis and the people who can defend them. So that's why I call it the project manager as a curator of information. Now, to the question that Ragu's asking, which priorities are political versus business driven? Well, they're together.
Yeah.
Business driven includes politics, like we talked about before. There are agendas for promotions, there are agendas for roadmaps, there are agendas for budgets, there are personal agendas for secret coalitions, if you will, for departments, and historical pieces that are layered on top of that. But
yeah,
I think about the business, right? Let's say you have the political agenda. One person wants this project to be selected and be successful. One person does not want this to be successful because they actually do better if it fails. So it's so interrelated, right? And again, that's why it comes back to pull the ego out of it. I mean, you have to play to the ego. So let's just play the ego in a way, right, where you have the data, you build those relationships. I'm kind of talking around and I'm trying to get specific, but if you know, someone get to the bottom of where that agenda comes from. See if you can kind of get to the root cause of it. It's so hard to explain this. And Kyle, you seem to be able to be ready to answer this. I can, so go for it. Hard to explain.
Yeah, because I actually think me and you were thinking the same thing at the same time then, because I'm like to anybody in the chat, imagine a situation, right, where you're leading a project and you're sat in front of director A and director B. Maybe director and director B don't get on.
Yeah.
Their peers don't get on. Director A wants this to work. Director B doesn't want this to work. They are beholden to their boss.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I fall back whenever I'm in that kind of situation. I always try to fall back to facts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you then start to think about the quantitative nature again, Justin. So for example, if you're being pulled into that meeting and things are off track, Director B is using that as potential ammo against your supporting director, wanting to call time to it. Again, you're taking emotion out of it, because ultimately, if the project shouldn't go forward because of the facts that you're outlining, then that's the right thing for the business, right?
It could still hurt you too, though, for the person who wanted it to go through and you make it not go forward. So how do you handle that, Kyle? Because now
just to answer this bit is to go, you start talking about things, Justin, that is really important to those people. So quantifying things such as reputational risk about not delivering it.
Mm-hmm.
Quantifying cost. How much have you burned? So if you were to walk away there, and then what's the exposure to carry on? What does it mean to the teams? Are they under incredible pressure because of other priorities that's coming in? And you'll be able to quantify that. And again, I come back to my answer before, options with recommendations. And if they can't get a decision, you go up the chain and you try and force that decision, coming from a perspective of the actual facts. Now, back to your question, because I think you were about to go, okay, what about the impact to a project manager if something fails?
Right.
Is that where it's going?
Well, not if the project fails, but you've given database information, you've escalated up. How do we do that without building enemies? Because you had director A and director B. One wants it to go forward, one doesn't, right? And you have laid out the facts. It really doesn't make sense for it to go forward. So the director who didn't want it to go forward, great. The one who did, now they're mad at you. I mean, you've had to escalate that. You've had to potentially go by their manager. So you don't want to make enemies. How do you handle that?
Well, you don't. And this is the art of the warm-up.
Okay.
Having the conversation before you're going in.
Yeah.
If you've got the facts and you're sat down with those people before and you can point where the data's going, Director A is not walking into something that's a surprise. He should be walking in with a script ready to go. Because again, as a project manager, no emotion, right?
Right.
Data, facts, project. I just need to know what you want me to do. you are forcing that escalation, that decision onto the parties that need to make that decision. And you can always refer back to the fact that this is what you outline, and these are the options and recommendations, and we've been steering this direction. I mean, I've had projects stop before. I've had them stop before. I've had projects that realistically I've looked at and said, should we really be doing this? And I've had those conversations and been told, yes, carry on. It happens. It happens because, to your point, Justin, you can't get away from the politics. You can't get away from that.
No, and you can't solve them.
Navigate.
Yes,
no.
You cannot solve them. And that's the first question I think that Raghu asked, which is, what are the misalignment between stakeholders that no one is openly addressing? And it is the history behind departments that you as a project manager or program manager inherit without knowing about it. You probably, if you're in a new project management role or you are a vendor as a project manager, there are histories behind these departments that you don't know. And there can be feuds, and the project can become a proxy for those feuds as well. And you have to be able to navigate through that. And how do you do that? You stick to the facts, but you also are trying to be that mediator between departments, and it's fixated on the broader scope. It's not departmental. It's whether or not that you guys all have a job at the end of the day. If you guys break the revenue stream because you're having a feud because you want credit for this department versus this department, none of you are going to have a job after that either. Or you're going to burn out your team, then stop worrying about your feud for a second and think longer term. This is the importance of being a strategic project manager. Short-term versus long-term horizons, these misalignments that you can't address on your own. And I'll leave with this last piece because I keep diatribing on a tangent.
I like this.
Project managers cannot fix it, cannot fix these problems. I want it to get in everyone's head. Even if you can realistically push back on things with data, but if you're told to do it, then you're not going to push back anymore unless you want the door.
So you hit
exactly
things. So we talked about yes, use data, keep emotion out, etc. We talked about look at the bigger picture. So look upstream at how this is going to impact the business. Also look at downstream as how this is going to impact the team, right? Because that's going to affect just project delivery and other stuff overall, right? But then we all kind of hit on one other piece, and that's the relationship building piece. So how do we not
reading my mind today?
You mentioned it, and I think I mentioned, and Justin mentioned it, but we're looking at three different aspects of it, right? I said we have to understand what is the root cause. So really get an understanding what everyone, all the stakeholders, what their agendas are. Like, what do they actually want to happen, don't want to happen, and why, right? Which takes relationship building, getting to know them, seeing how you can solve their problems, separately, or see how you can frame things and move decisions forward that move the business forward, but can still kind of appease or balance the situation. But the other thing you said was have a conversation before you enter the room, right? So that's relationship building too, to not blindside people. This is not even just for politics. This is, yes, politics, you got someone who's always derailing a project, which we'll probably talk about in a minute, right? Or derails meetings. Go have a conversation with them ahead of time. Align expectations, build those relationships so they want to work with you. And sometimes that means a meeting right before a meeting, just to get on the same page, not have things derailed, to get on the same page, to go, these are the issues we're facing, which is why I have to escalate. I'm open to your suggestions. I'd love to bring you into the conversation, etc. That helps minimize the creation of those enemies when you escalate. I'm not saying it completely mitigates it completely, because people are people and there's politics for a reason, but that really helps. There's rapport building, relationship building, solving problems for people in different departments, being that go-to person. There's so many different ways to address it. I'm done.
Can I jump in? Because I got to say, you are like literally every time I'm sat here, I'm thinking, I need to talk about this because that's really vital. And then you actually say it. The fact that we're kind of so in sync as a three, it's mad. So, I was exactly going to say something absolutely similar. Justin, you wrote a post, and I think it went a bit viral, didn't it? And I think you're probably trying to think which one it was, but it was like, there are some people that shouldn't be project managers, and that's okay, right? I'm not want to talk about that post, but it's kind of building on it a little bit, which is one of the biggest myths, I think, about project management, especially project management today, is project managers are process driven. Yeah, we are, but we're also fundamentally people. We like people. We like dealing with people. We like working with people. And the quicker you get a handle on that,
I'll let you believe that. Continue.
If I just walk, I'm like, oh God. But I believe that project managers should be very much focused on relationships and people.
Yeah.
So again, another big lesson that people can understand is don't wait to build relationships when you're already in a burning house.
Yeah.
You want to be getting to know those stakeholders straight away, and the questions that you're asking them too. And it might not be about the project. You want to get to know them as people, because again, this sounds a little bit manipulative, but you want them to like you, because you want them to understand that you're doing your job in the right way, and you're doing it for the betterment of the project, and the company, and the revenue stream, and all that kind of good stuff. So that whatever you bring them, it's coming from a good place.
I want to add
by getting to know those. Yeah.
I want to add a caveat. As a project manager, it's not our job to be liked, because we are going to make people upset. I think we want them to respect us. Like is great, but respect that we're looking for the betterment of the company and the people. I think that, and it may be just a disagreement of like kind of what we're looking at, which is totally fine. We don't have to agree. But I feel like
I'm a touchy, feely person. I think that's where it comes from with me.
Yeah.
And I think anybody in here who knows me will be like, yeah, that's Kyle.
But we can't all be like, we make people mad.
No.
Yeah.
No. I think for me, I want when I have those conversations, I want to walk out of that meeting and I want people to, if they don't agree with it, I want them to at the very least understand that whatever I'm telling them is to make sure no one loses the job. I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it because 100%. These decisions, they can have huge impacts. They can have huge impacts. And those difficult conversations can be an absolute make or break sometimes for companies.
So I want to shift gears for a second. We'll bring up one more question from Raghu that he has about failures. And then I want to shift to like conflict in a room and dealing with team conflict. So, oops, where'd it go? I just keep hearing my dog barking in the background. So he says, are failures treated as learning or punishment? So I'd love your thoughts on that. And then I want to kind of shift gears.
I mean, where my thoughts initially go with that is, if you're in an organization and failures are being treated as a punishment, I'd be thinking, are you working for the right kind of organization that helps personal growth? If I was working in an organization and I failed and I was lambasted for it, I'm going to caveat that. I'm going to caveat my own comment in a sec. I would be thinking, I'm not going to develop as a PM here. I'm not learning the right things. My caveat is, as long as when you look at your own work and however decisions are being made to lead to failure, you are comfortable that you've done everything that you can. Now, when I say done everything that you can, it might be coming from the basis of your experience today. So you might have only been doing the job 6 months, and there might have been elements that I'm talking about you've never even thought of. But failure in that environment without actually learning that should still be okay. If you've been doing the job 10 years, and it's failed because you've not tracked a risk very well, then yeah, there should be a punishment to go along with that because you're not doing the basics.
Yeah.
That's how I'd answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think failure fundamentally, it's emotionally or psychologically triggering. It can definitely impact you. If a company is going to be punishing you for a failure, yeah, agree with you, may not want to work there, but I think the idea is you should learn from it. And if the company chooses to punish you for failing, then you can even learn from that, which is it the right company to work for? Or did they give me the skills I needed? Do I need to do my own continuous improvements? There's a lot to learn from there. But I don't failure, in my opinion, should never be treated as punishment unless, like you said, you continuously miss the basics of your job, can't competently do it, have been trained on it, etc. And then at that point, yes, it might be time to find a different role or something like that. But
yeah,
I would almost say that's just a miss if you're learning, like, to start out with. So
yeah, I completely agree. Look, everybody here has failed, right? I don't understand why it's so dirty. I know that there are people that don't like to talk about it. I find them to be the most exciting conversations, because I can't learn anything from anybody that tells me I've done everything great. Everything I've ever done has been fantastic. I'm not going to learn anything from you. If I'm sat in front of somebody and they're going, geez, I had this thing, and wow, you won't believe how it went wrong, I'm instantly listening, because I'm like, so how did you deal with it? Because there's still stuff that I don't know, that I'm going to end up in situations in the future I won't know how to handle, but someone might have gone through it. And that, you can take a lot out of that. I don't want to talk about perfection. You can't learn from perfection.
yeah. So let's shift gears. Oh wait, hold on. Justin just came off. I want to give him a chance to.
No, I think we're on the same point, shifting gears. So let's talk a little bit more. We talked about politics for a while. We talked to other sides of dark side of project management. We talked about proxy wars, and also burnout is another one. Project managers are one of the most, it's an interesting piece because they have the lens of everything around the organization that it touches, but they have no authority on any of it. And you can imagine how difficult that will be when you're trying to make people play nice with each other.
Yeah.
And also drive towards an act of good faith towards the outcomes that were to be realized for the organization. But that includes people who have their own personal affairs that they bring into the project, or the historical problems, and also the biases towards project managers in general. Some people just hate project managers. Some people see them as glorified admins. Some people see that they don't understand the technical piece, the business process, or the organizational acumen, so they're useless. Similar to how the concepts of Scrum Master, for example, there's an inherent bias around project managers, and that can be driven again by history that you're not a part of, but you inherit that. I'll give you an example. When I managed an ERP implementation for a specialized work stream for 2.5 years, I had a notorious business client who would basically yell, scream, and kick people out of rooms if they weren't prepared. People were burning out and they were retiring from them. I started out with a novice. I didn't understand any of it. I built my reputation with that client. We started a learning of practice center of excellence because of the work that I did. But then she still wanted to fire me towards the end of the project, because things can change. People can change. And that's the dark side of project management. You can do everything right, and you can still be at the tail end of that. So how do you handle that?
I lost the connection for about 10 seconds.
Gosh.
How do you handle the
Might need you
burnout?
to repeat that.
How do you handle being,
burnout?
Doing all of the good work that you want for a project, and then still ending up with a negative outcome?
Do you know, as you were talking, I think it's interesting just to point that if you're getting into project management, and I know there's people in this chat that agree with me, and I'm waiting to see if any names pop up. You have to understand that everybody's got an opinion on what a project manager is, and it's exactly like you just said. From history of dealing with project managers, what they perceive to be biases about what they think it is as well. So I just want to call that out. I sit on meetings at times and people saying, as a project manager, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. How long have you been a PM?
Yeah, they think we're unicorns.
And you have to internalize that as well. You have to internalize it. You can't say it. Back to your question, Justin, burnout and kind of the negativity and stuff like that. I mean, I am often described as a little bit of a workaholic and a psychopath. You have to move on from the negative impacts, and you have to think about the next one, right? You have to really, it builds. I would say this job as a person, as a human being, will build in you the best resiliency you could ever have.
Yeah, you need a thick skin.
And you will become strong, really strong. And you become confident. You get all out of this job. And you have to remember that, because you're growing as a person. With every failure, if you get a negative project, you get something like that, you're growing. I always use the rule as well, when you're dealing with a difficult conversation or a difficult situation. People might laugh because I've never told people this before. I often go to those situations and always think, I'm not going to die. In half an hour, the conversation's over, and I'll have learned something, and I'll be able to kind of go, all right, I know how to deal with that again. And it's like skills in the armor. You've got to love it. You've got to love delivery, and you've got to dust yourself off after you've had a negative delivery, and you've got to think, what's the next one? We'll make that one better. You've got to get a buzz out of delivery. And actually, as well, failure and a project going off track doesn't mean it stops entirely.
Yeah.
And another one, failure and a project stopping could be the right thing, and actually can highlight your name as a really good PM.
Yeah.
Right. It's under crisis.
No one tells you that either.
But it's also the project manager. Why do we have a project manager? Because when things deviate, they're to help fix and course correct. It's not always supposed to be green. We emphasize this in one of our status lessons. It's the concept of, why else do you have someone managing a project? When it turns yellow, you report, you mitigate, and then you move on. It turns red, you report, you mitigate, you move on. That's the concept. Yeah. It's not always going to be green, and that's okay.
But yes.
The last thing that I want to emphasize here is back to that burnout piece, or when you're feeling that you're getting a negative feedback, just remember all of the other things that you've done before. Yes. All of the other realizations, all of the accolades that I've built over almost 17 years now.
I've got a beauty of an example for you. And I really mean this, and I'm going to mention him by name because I know he's watching, because I've seen his name and it's just come to me. So when I first started going out on my own, Martin, if you're listening, I want to see your name. I started a place, my first client, again, I'm not going to mention any names because it's not fair. The project was really, really, really in a bad way. And I was told everything was fine when I was walking through the door. And there is a point to this, and this is another big lesson I want to give to anybody that's stepping into this in a second, because this is gold. It was broken. The solution wasn't understood. We had someone in architecture who shouldn't have been doing the job. I was making my reports, and the director was changing them before I went into the. It was awful. I have never been as stressed in my entire life. I had done the job for so long, and I was literally every day at the end of the day going, have I lost it? Can I not do this anymore? I started to internalize it and think, Jesus, this is me. This has got to be me. It's got to be. And Martin pulled me to one side because he was also working there, and he pulled me to one side. And he bought me a coffee, and he said, how are you getting on? And we had a chat, and I told him everything that was going on. And he went, and you know what? It was powerful. He just said, it's not you. It's not you. I feel the same. It's not you. And from that moment, me and him spoke every week. And he helped me pick myself back up. And I did something in that contract that I've never really done. Saying I walked away from it. I told him I can't do this because it's not working for me. I walked away. And I said, I can't work with you. Can't work with you. Because it was affecting me. Now, the point that I want to make to people is get a network. Is there, look? Yep, not the best. Get a network around you that you trust. People that you trust, people that you love, that are going to tell you the truth when you've done something crap, and also going to tell you when you're doing it right, because they are the gold in this game. I want to be upfront with you. That's why me and you two got talking. It's powerful because it makes sure that when you're in the eye of the storm, you've got somewhere to go and go, is this right? And again, like, I know I've got the framework and I still do it. Me and Marty went out for dinner 2 weeks ago and I'm sat across the way, is this right? I don't know if this is right. And it helps. And it helps build you up. And it helps keep you in a place where there's some psychological safety in situations sometimes where it feels like you've got none.
So apart from building a network, though, which will help from a psychological safety standpoint, when you come into a really messy project, the wrong plan, the wrong solution, a team that doesn't get along, how do you handle that? Because you said you've walked into it multiple times. You just use the example, right? Like, it's great, and you walk into it and it's failing, and you have to be able to rescue it. What do you do?
Yeah. Just before, I want to call out Raghu's question because I think that's important. Walking away is not a weakness. Hell no, it's not. Hell no. No, 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 no. If you feel that a situation is not working for you, it's exactly what Justin's just put. You're putting boundaries around what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable.
Yep.
You're not learning. It's not constructive. Knock it on the head. Now, back to your question. What do I do when... I mean, look, we're all kind of... This is kind of bread and butter for us. I mean, we've been doing it for quite a while.
It's not for everyone.
So it's... Yeah. And the point is like it almost comes as like a muscle memory. And you don't even know you're doing it. You don't even know you're doing it. And it's leaning on the people that know the information. That you have to walk into a situation and very, very quickly understand the key players, understand what's going off underneath the skin of what's going on with them, the good bits about what's going off with it, and importantly, the bad bits. Because the bad bits become your actions. For example, I'm trying to think of a situation. Walking in and right, for example, I'll use an example from about a year ago. I was working in another fintech, and I was, again, situation. Everything's fine. It's a really easy piece of work. It's really easy. Don't worry about it. Okay, what we're building? Yeah, we don't know. We've signed a contract. We don't have a product. Okay. Well, can we get some requirements? Yeah, we would, but we've got no BAs. Oh, sweet. Justin's lived it. Do we have any architecture? No, we got a product owner. Okay, right. So instantly, me and that product owner in a war room and mapping. What do we know? What don't we know? And then you're starting to settle it down because what you're doing is, again, you're driving facts out. What are we aiming to achieve? And where are we starting from? The gap is the work. Cool. Right. From there, where's his risks? What do we need to know? And then this was the punchline to it all. Yeah, we don't have any developers to actually build it either. Oh, am I building it too?
It's almost like initiation or discovery. Yeah, it's almost like initiation or discovery on steroids, right? Where you have to stop work and you have to figure out very quickly what are the requirements, who are the people I'm working with, et cetera. And I wish we could dig into Project Rescue for an hour in itself, which we don't have time for. But I agree, those are the key things to look at. Sometimes you do have to stop work and you have to go, because if they're building the wrong solution, why would we keep wasting effort? Like, let's stop and take the leads, rethink this through. Maybe other people can go work on a different project in the meantime, right? For the business or something, and figure it out. Because you don't want to keep propelling the wrong thing forward because it leads to more rework. So having the ability to say, we have to stop the work and look at this, knowing who your stakeholders are. I've been brought into a project that was legally required, not started yet. It was supposed to be over a year project. I had to get it done in 6 months. Had no idea who the stakeholders were. I didn't have enough budget. There was no product manager, so I was also the product manager. I still delivered it all on time. But that's because it's that very it's the initiation discovery on steroids. It's the wearing multiple hats. It's the getting to know your stakeholders, figuring out all of that. And it's a hard job. And sometimes you have to say stop. In this case, it hadn't been started, but you never know. We have a question that I'm going to give us, let us answer really quickly in 2 or 3 minutes, because then we're almost out of time. But we have a question from Will Sansom. How do you handle different cultures, especially when working on a project that stretches across the global organization?
Hi, Will. Me and Will work together as well. Thank you for that. So I've been working on multinationals as well. It's the human factor, really. I'm sounding like I'm plugging it. I swear I'm not. It's understanding, like, can you get your points across? I don't know. It's a weird one, that one, Will, because like when I'm dealing with people abroad, I don't tend to change my methods. I probably talk slower so people are understanding what I'm saying more than anything. Because I think sometimes the language barrier can be the biggest hurdle you can have as a project manager, because 80% of what we do is communication, right? There are different elements to culture. I mean, I've got enough stories that I could fill another hour with, but we don't have another hour. And it would be stuff that I don't think would be constructive. I think leaning on your higher ups, it comes back to the same thing of understanding your stakeholders and taking the time to understand them. And leaning on people that might have the established relationships too, to understand how they operate. So if for example, you're working in Japan for the first time, that is going to be a different approach. And you're going to have to lean on the people that you are working with to understand the do's and the don'ts. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just what I'd do.
It's understanding your audience. You're right. Or your stakeholders. Yeah. I mean, there are different cultures you've got some cultures are very just to the point, work fast, don't need all the details. Some are, people pleasers, and you need to be able to figure out how to connect with them and help them understand. But we are almost at time. So I know Justin has a bit quick announcement he wants to make, and then I want to give people a chance to kind of learn more about where they can find you. So I'm going to hand it off to Justin, and then we'll hand it off to you.
Okay, perfect. So different cultures, learn about the direct, indirect cultures, do your homework. If you want to work in multinationals, do your homework. That's your responsibility as an individual. Now, the announcement, we've covered a lot around organizational politics. So for all of our attendees here, we're going to offer you a 50% coupon for our organizational politics lesson, 40 minutes of things that you should know if you want to progress in your project management career at pmcareergrowth.com. That's a gift for enabling the human framework and for hosting Kyle as well. Kyle, you can do your pitch for the book since I have it in my hand.
You can find it on Amazon. If you want the link, please feel free to DM me and I will send you the link, but it's all over my LinkedIn page.
And where can people find you? You've got LinkedIn and you've got some podcasts.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot going off at the minute. But before I actually jump into that, Dean Lambert, I saw your comment. If I was Kyle, I would have called the big red stop button. I didn't, and I delivered it on time. I just can't not try. It's my own failing, but we did it. Where you can find me. So initially, Project, that's my main arm. That's where we do work with clients and the consultancy stuff. The book, The Human Framework, you can find the link on my LinkedIn profile. And there's also a website that you'll find on my LinkedIn profile as well. You can buy it on Amazon. For anybody that's actually interested, there's also a course that we do, and it focuses on the left-hand side of projects, and it also focuses on these interaction pieces between people too. So if you're interested, please reach out. More globally, I am about to start a podcast with two really big friends of mine in the Leeds area in the UK called Knights of Tech. You'll find that again on my profile. Aimed at people within delivery at a senior level if you're interested, and it's a round table. And like this, it's all about talking about stuff that other people don't want to talk about. And Elizabeth, Justin, obviously, please come and take part, because that would be awesome. And then outside of that, anybody that's in America, in September, I'm doing a human road trip. I'm hoping, well, Elizabeth, we need to figure out whether we can actually do anything. But I
know you're going to be too far away
as well. I know, man. I'm going to have to come back another time. But I'm 23rd of September. I'm starting in Chicago, and I'm going to be driving all the way through Route 66 to LA. I'm going to be hitting LA around the 13th of October for LA Tech Week, and I'm bringing all this stuff. Justin, can you show the little mini me? Because I'm going to be coming with loads of these as well. These are the hottest property in the UK right now. That is a miniature me for the stressful times. So yeah, that's all my stuff. If you want to know about it, come to my page, and there's videos 3 times a week on all this kind of stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I honestly do think we could probably have you back and have it literally be like an hour of the Project Rescue and the other stuff we talked about that we couldn't quite get. But thank you so much for joining. I think our next live is actually an AMA. Justin and I have been doing this for 2.5 months, have not done an AMA yet. So we will be doing an AMA, I think not next week, but the following. Kyle will have you stay on when we end the live stream. Justin went ahead and dropped the link to our lesson on how to manage politics in the chat, and he also provided the promo code, which I think he's going to be deleting in a few hours because it's only available to people that have joined this call. And then I also dropped Kyle's profile into the link as well, so that is up above. Thank you everyone for allowing us in your offices and your homes for an hour of your time, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.